All right, there we go. All right, excellent. I know everybody on Instagram heard that. If you didn't hear that on the live or the YouTube, it's because I forgot to hit the button. That's what happens when you run around. Don't rush, schedule. All right, so we're going to go over networking, which is building and cultivating relationships. Ultimately, what I'm saying is we are always building and cultivating relationships, even though we hate the word networking. Networking is not handing out business cards and saying, I'll talk to you later. The building and cultivating aspect is always building relationships and bringing people into your circle of influence. And of course, the cultivating is putting time into people and other individuals, including friends, family, and associates, which are really the only three kind of people you can know in your life. If you don't know them, they're strangers. Moving to, there is a difference between the following. That's right. Introductions, follow-ups, rotation, communication, and jolts. There is a complete difference. Let's go over introductions real quick. I'm not going to really dwell on it. I'm not going to focus on it, but an introduction is ultimately introducing yourself or being introduced, which is known as a third-party introduction, but it's still considered an introduction. Introductions are pretty much, if you don't know them, you take a chance, you meet them, you go, hey, how you doing, right? So they are not obviously a follow-up because you haven't met the people yet, right? Introductions are important to build your circle of influence because you have to meet new people. You have to be introduced to new people. But more importantly, you should be introducing people to the people you know, because the stronger and more interconnected your circle of influence is, the more powerful and more valued your circle of influence is, including your value set within your circle of influence. Follow-ups, which will be what we talk about mostly today. Follow-ups are basically returning interest to somebody. Now, commonly, a follow-up might be like, hey, I haven't talked to this person in a long time. Let me follow up with them. We're actually going to call that a rotation communication. And the reason is we got to change your brain. We got to get your brain focused and isolated and organized. So why we are creating follow-ups and rotation communications as two separate things is because a follow-up is more specifically to remind someone of something that you had done together. All right. Whereas a rotation communication, for me, and the way I explain it, is ultimately keeping in touch with people on a schedule. That schedule can be loose. It doesn't have to be like on the 3rd of every month, I will follow up with so-and-so. But you do want to keep people in your life. And sometimes we get busy. So you say, you know, hey, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to dedicate some time to catching up with some people, right? So that's how we do these rotation and communications. And a jolt, which, by the way, I love jolts. And I'm sure you all do jolts, but you're not sure maybe what a jolt is, right? So a jolt is if we do the rotation communication or the introduction, not the follow-up. If we introduce ourselves to somebody, either in person or through the emails, or we reach out to them through a text message or an email for the rotation communication. Basically, if you don't hear from somebody within 2 weeks, you do a jolt. We're not going to really go over jolts today because I told you today is about the follow-ups. But to give you a quick indicator of what a jolt's value is, with jolts, you do not remind them of the past conversation. Okay, so if you reach out to someone and you go, yo, I was wondering if maybe you could read my script, or hey, I got a book, you should read my book, or I got a band, check out my album, right? The thing is, if they don't respond in 2 weeks, you don't want to feel like you're bothering them or you're pushing on them. So you do a jolt this way. You just find out what's the closest holiday, what holiday just passed. Do you know if they have something coming up? Did they just do something? Because, you know, on social media, right? Did they do an event? Did they have a celebration? Did they release something? Whatever it is, you reference that and a congratulations, you know? Like, so if you see that they, like I have a buddy who just worked with the Emmys. So I would, as a jolt, I would be like, hey, congratulations working with the Emmys. It was really great. You know, I saw your post. Amazing that you're still doing stuff with them. They're all the more better. What that does is that jolts them to remember that you reached out to them, without you going, hey, remember I emailed you? I would really like, can you help me out? So jolts are kind of like make it a very passive, hey, remember that thing? And another cool thing you could do with a jolt, if you don't do it through a text message, right? If you do it through an email, you can actually do a response to the original email thread. So it'll be below. So you're not necessarily bringing it up, but it is there. So if they read the jolt and then they look at the thread and they go, oh, that's right. I wanted to get back to this person, but I was just busy. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's not because whatever it is you have sucks. It's because they're busy. And that's why the jolt is very passive, but at the same time, it makes you do something. I'm going to take some Diet Pepsi. We're not sponsored by the Diet Pepsi, but it'd be nice if we could. I got a little parched. Gonna get this dry mouth out of here so I can continue. So there is a major difference between introductions, follow-ups, rotation, communications, and of course the jolts. But let's focus on follow-ups, okay? Now, as I said, a follow-up is basically you're responding to something you had done with somebody, and I'll go a little deeper into that in a second. When should you follow up? This is very easy, very simple. Anytime you do something with a person or people. That's it, right? So let's say I have a meeting with somebody. I know that I have to follow up with them. Let's say I met somebody for the first time. I know I have to follow up with that person. Let's say you went to an event to see them perform, or like you went to let's say any kind of event, like they're playing music or they're doing comedy or they're theater, whatever it is. If you see them perform and you say hello to them and you congratulate them, do a follow-up. The other thing you should do a follow-up on is if you do introduce yourself to somebody, right? Yeah, put that on pause. If you introduce yourself to somebody, okay? If you do that, and they say to you, hey, call me back on Thursday, and we'll talk about A, B, and C. That is also considered a follow-up, and you should definitely put them on the follow-up to-do list. Ultimately, I learned that a long time ago because somebody was like, hey, let's talk Thursday. And I called him up and I was like, yo, so how's the day? How's it going? How's it going? And they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, a little small talk, like work into the conversation. No, I told you to call me on Thursday to talk about a very specific thing. And that's the deal. The follow-up is to just get right back into what it is or remind somebody emotionally of what it was. And don't waste a follow-up on a chit-chat or a jolt or a rotation communication, because people, they have limited time. They got 80 summers on average, and they're like, let's get going, right? So anytime you do something with a person or the people. Okay, when should you do the follow-up after you actually do something with somebody? Well, this is easy. 1 to 3 days starting after action. Okay? So that means basically once I meet somebody, let's say I meet Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, and I go, hey, what's up? We have a quick, nice 10, 15-minute conversation, and then we part ways, right? But I get their business card, or maybe they don't have a business card. So I take out my phone, and I go, hey, let's stay in touch. Why don't you give me your email? It's less invasive. However, they might say, why don't I just give you my phone number? I'll just give you the phone number. And I go, all right, and then I'll text you my information. They go, great. That might happen. I've been in situations where I met somebody of value and they liked me, and I was like, all right, man, have a great day. I know you're busy. I'll come find you. And then they found me, and they're like, hey, and they had the phone out. They're like, give me a phone number. And I was like, oh, all right. So, people want to keep in touch with you, and some people are a little proactive about it. So that's good. But the 1 to 3 days starting after action, basically, if Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt meets me in person, right, I'm going to put it on a Monday. I'm going to put the information in my phone or take their card. And basically you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to follow up by. Thursday is the latest you should follow up. All right. But same day follow-ups are not as strong as second, third, or fourth day, right? So if you wait till the next day, right, 1 to 3, it's stronger because if you do it the same day, they already still remember you. They're already still in that mindset, that energy, and it's like, you just, hey man, great meeting, and you walk away and you go, an hour or 2 later, you're like, hey, it was nice meeting you tonight. I'll talk to you soon, right? What you're trying to do is you're trying to affect their short-term memory, okay? So if you wait to the next day and do the follow-up, you'll reignite that emotional connection you made, especially if in that follow-up, you respond with something that happened in that meeting. For example, if a joke was made, right? If Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt made a joke about monkeys, and I was like, yeah, I hope you're not battling those monkeys or whatever. It sounds crazy, but that emotional recall helps with the follow-up's value. Now, the reason you get 3 days, 1 to 3 days, starting directly after the first meeting, is because by that 4th day, their short-term memory is basically out of the picture. And they probably moved on to things, not because you're not cool, not because you're not important, but because they are busy and their brain is being filled with a lot of information. I personally like to do the follow-up 2 days in. So if I meet somebody the next day, depending on the meeting, I might do it on that day. But usually I wait to the next day. I like to be right in the middle. Easy peasy. Very simple. And the reason you do that is because you want to affect their short-term memory. Now, once you do that follow-up, though, you do want to start putting them into the rotation communication. I'll give you a little bit of tip on that in a little bit. But okay. Speaking of tips to get on schedule with follow-ups. All right. Told you we're going to do some tips, so let's do the tips. All right. Set up a spreadsheet. All right, that's it. Just set up a spreadsheet. Let me get some. By the way, I am not sponsored by Diet Pepsi. However, good stuff. I hope it's not poisoning me. Okay. So a tip is set up a spreadsheet. Now, the reason you set up a spreadsheet, or you could just put a reminder in your phone, either one works, right? Is the moment you do something with somebody, an action is taken for the when should you follow up. Anytime you do something with a person or people, you want to put them into the spreadsheet for you to take action. Because remember, they're allowed to break the rules. You can't break the rules. You are trying to be successful. You're trying to build and cultivate relationships. You're trying to do something, right? They might be too, but you want to do it right. You want to put time into people. So allow yourself to be organized. And you just set up a spreadsheet and you put them right on top. And this is who I met, at what time, what did you talk about, who are they? You notate it however you want. However, every time you meet somebody new, you put them on the bottom of the list and you fill that list up. What do you do when you follow up? Just like I said earlier, you turn them into a rotation communication. So as you're listing newest people at the bottom, okay, move followed up people to the rotation communication queue. That's right. You should have another spreadsheet or a tab on that spreadsheet, especially if you have spreadsheets. And it should be a rotation communication, which means every 2 weeks, minimum, the latest every 2 weeks. But you can do it every week. You could, again, there are some people we talk to every day. There's some people that just won't leave us alone, but we're like friends with them. There's some people we talk to once a week, but never let 2 weeks go by. You want people to be in that 2 weeks, right? Something I like to do is I like to try to get involved with people. So if I want to stay in touch with people and I know we're all busy, I create an opportunity, which is like, maybe I do like an actor's breakdown thing where, we work on lines together, or we practice scenes, or maybe comedians, I'll get together and we'll work out jokes and we'll critique each other's performance. So instead of going to an open mic night, we all hang out at the house and they do the joke and they go, because now you're focusing, you're not looking at your phone going, all right, I got to do my jokes, right? No, you're paying attention, you're working together, but you're maintaining that relationship. And that's when rotation communication becomes null and void, right? Because you're giving them so much time, they're so involved in your life and you're so involved in their life that you don't have to keep up with them every 2 weeks. But that's the habit building for those that we are too busy to communicate or that are too busy to communicate with us. We are putting time into them because they don't have the time to put into us, right? Because networking is building and cultivating relationships on our part, because networking is about who we know. Marketing is about who knows us, and practicing is about how well do we know ourselves, right? So set up a spreadsheet, list newest people at the bottom of that list, and then of course, as soon as you follow up with them, move them to the rotation communication. You could rhyme and poem. Look at that, man. 20 minutes. Didn't I say that? 20-minute video. That's it. Boom. All right. So there you go. If you have any questions on this video, leave them in the comments below. Go follow, subscribe, share the video, and hey, we'll do this again next time. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. We don't know. But I will have my Diet Pepsi. However, I know some of you are going to say to me, Thomas, you need to be drinking your water. And I know that. I know that. Drink your water. Anyway, all right. Hasta luego, Wiedersehen, au revoir, bye, ciao. I'll see you next time. And remember, follow, subscribe, share, like, comment. Let me know your thoughts. If you have questions about this stuff or other things you want to learn about, you pop that stuff in the bottom. All right. Talk to you soon. Boop, boop, boop. 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 All right. Bye-bye. Do, 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 do.